Oh boy, guys. What a day. What a day. Time to wrap it up this Friday, February 21st, the day which is going to live in infamy. Not quite. It is a pretty brutal day, isn't it? Look at that thing. Top left, bottom right. That's it. That's the bad day all over. We are already into that last half hour. We'll see if we get any lift at the very end, any bargain hunt. But so far, it less looks like the stuff we talked about this morning about potential profit taking, that bouncing up against resistance here. Um, I actually honestly thought we were going to have more of a range bound trading there, but it's once it started and once it took out support at the 61.10s, their bets were off. They ran it for to the first attract at 85. And that would be like the last hurrah. They just blew through that thing and look at that thing. All total pylon effect right down here to the 6,020. So we are down at the lower end of our support area. This is pretty good support though. So I mean it's I mean, I would be surprised if they take it lower, but anything can happen today. Bets are off. So I would not be I haven't traded this since earlier this morning. Looking at it, it's pretty much it's a pretty rough going at it. So the only trade I had was this early on trade when they ran into the first support, and it was basically the trade assuming or expecting a potential range-bound day buying weakness that we talked about this morning. And when that did not work out and this sloppy stuff happened going into the London close, remember that London update we talked about, unless they really start retracing this, chances are we're going to see a retest of that low, maybe lower. And look at that thing happen, right? So you got a sense for it. If you try to get short, the opportunities there were opportunities on the way down here, but the entry had been gnarly, no matter how you do it. So you had to kind of look for a little S pullback and try to get in on that bar. It's very uncomfortable because you don't really know how far they're going to retrace it. So yes, after the fact, yeah, sure, but as they're retracing this to the upside, you have no freaking idea how far they're going to take it. Yeah, so you kind of had to be prepared to repair it and make the trade kind of big just to be on the right side. And if it turns out that that was the fake out and now you're back to the mean, you're just gonna be in a really bad loser. So it's very difficult to trade if you try to trade the when they start heading lower, the momentum play. It's they rotate back and forth, and unless you have a big stop, you're getting shaken out is a very real possibility. So these days are very few and far between, and that's why most of the time selling the low like that doesn't work. Today, yeah, it worked just fine. If you get a little bit bigger stop, selling the low would have worked great, but usually that's not the case. Usually they have a lot more rotations going on, and that's just today was just the pylon effect. So after the first move to the downside, they started taking out that 90 to 85s. At that point, you're probably going to be a little bit more aggressive selling the low at that point, if that was what you were going to do. Of course, they have a little rotation like that, which is yeah, that low. If you sold the low around about here at the 54s, at a fade heat up to the 65s, the 10, 11 point worth of heat. So I just stopped trading it at that point. I mean, it's if you want to be aggressive about it, fine. This is just super volatile, and it's just set up for potentially getting caught in a shitty trade. And you know how fast that trade can turn shitty. So you don't want to be stuck in a trade when they retrace it, or you're on the wrong side of it, or you try to buy the low and then you're on the wrong side of it as they keep drawing it in lower. Just let it stop you out. So I'm down on that one trade this morning. I'm down 57 on that two contracts, and that was about it. So far, I'm just watching, see if you're going to see some attempt to retrace this, but so far it doesn't look it. This looks pretty weak. So starting off with a bias to the downside, going into the overnight into Sunday, Monday, starting with a bias to the downside. Let's see how far they can take it. Yes, and it kind of ends up a little bit where they kind of it hinges a little bit to where they end up closing, but unless they really retrace it quite a bit to the upside, and at least they're like a 30% retracement past about this, the 100% extension of the initial balance. If they get up above that, maybe have a shot at starting range bound, but I would start from the short side and see if we're going to see extension to the downside come Monday. We'll see. So a rough day for a rough going today. Oh, opportunities were there if you had the wherewithal to trade it. I just stopped trading it because I know myself I overtraded and that's get caught in some shitty stuff. On the bond market, we are right back after that's the tractor. So that's kind of went to where we thought it was going to go. Nice move to the upside, and on the Nasdaq, on the bonds, we were looking at if they took out this low volume area, a rotation to the next high volume area, and that's exactly what happened, right back up there. So yields coming down, that's not a bad thing, but the reason they're coming down is the market absolutely tanking on us. So this could very much be just a flight to safety. So we'll see if that holds here going into the weekend. But again, starting off on the long side, let's see if they can retest 8 to 9 or potentially take it higher. But that's kind of where we start on the bonds. Nasdaq is massively brutal. They're down to the 700, 21 700s and below it, so 660 right now. And that is just right back into this lower range. So they're right now, they're taking out key support. They're right in this lower range. Technically, we can run it all the way down to the 400s pretty easily. So it's anyone's guess where they're going to stall. At this point, looks like they're running out of gas now at the 660s. But it's as I said, they already taken out key support. So we can certainly head lower. So starting off from the short side, going into the overnight, looking to sell strength, kind of watching it and see how it's going to develop. A day like this could certainly be reversed pretty easily, I think, because I haven't seen any structural reason for it. It's just fear and stuff like that going on out there about tariffs. So maybe an overreaction, and we'll find that out on Monday if we get continuation to the downside. So at this point, as you can see, buying the low here, if the rotation is back out, you're stuck twisting in the wind. So that's why I haven't been aggressive about it. I just know myself, a day like this, you can see it when it first start happening, you want to trade it from the short side. If you can sit there and watch for those little pullbacks, and they're not easy. I mean, you see little pullbacks like this all the way down, and they keep going, and then suddenly you get a huge pullback. So it's just not easy to trade what you're looking at. And that's why I'm not trading it. So you try to get short on that when it starts trading higher. If you don't get aggressive, you miss a move like that. If you get aggressive, you may get stuck fading a ton of heat. So it's not easy, and hence that's why I'm not trading it. I don't need super easy, but it's if you depends on the size of the stop you want to trade. You can make a trade huge and sit in that thing and certainly turn into like a decent trade. But I try to keep the trades manageable and not let them run away from you. That's just money management stuff. And then oil and gold, not much to say about those actually. The oil gold hasn't done much today at all. It's been kind of going sideways. Looking at the oil market to the downside, pretty good move to the downside, I had to say. That is definitely an interesting trade, and more than I thought it would be. But as I said, this whole move to the upside is felt counterintuitive, and you can see how fast he has reverses that down. So maybe something good came out on the energy side, but both oil and gold at this point. Gold is range bound. Oil, I would start from the short side to see how far they can take it. On the oil, capital flow wise, you can see we are at the lower end of this range. So if they take out this low at the 70-20s, we may see that first leg lower. It would be nice to see, and it would be super helpful, especially if you're going to go fishing and have to put diesel in your freaking boat. That is ugly. Anyway, so oil trade up on the short side, gold range bound, going into the overnight Sunday, Monday. All right, back to the ES, and as I said, I mean, back to the Nasdaq real quick. So it was down on one trade, I was down 57 on the Nasdaq. I had the 3 trades, I'm up 47. So then net down $10 for the trading day. And that's fine. A day like this, that's why I stopped trading it. Like, okay, fine, I'll take my $10 loser and then I stop it instead of trying to be second guessing this. Because the inclination is really to try to buy a low for rotation back up again. But a day like this, you keep getting run over. You just have to stop. And if the time you figure out like, oh yeah, now it's happening, that's when you get caught. So I've been through it too many times. So I feel actually proud of myself. Stop kind of sitting on my hands when it gets too volatile, because days like this, you can easily rack up pretty good losses. And it just could be just pure volatility, just running it up and down, shaking you out of a trade. Even if it works out afterwards, it just makes it so much tougher. Anyway, we wrap it there. Hey guys, have a good weekend, and I will see you back Monday morning. You guys have a good one. Later.